everyone, it's Leticia here with Cal-Am Food Service, pastry chef. Today we're going to be doing a spaghetti soup and a different rendition on garlic bread. So it's not your average bread, and it actually won't have garlic, so it's something different for you guys. What I have here in my saute pan is nothing yet, but I did have it on so it can be warming. We're going to saute a little bit of onions and garlic in that. Okay, spaghetti is, of course, I'm sure everyone's had spaghetti, but it was a staple growing up in my household. I lived with my grandma for a little bit. She had 6 kids that she was taking care of, grandkids, and spaghetti was her go-to. So this is just going to be a different rendition on spaghetti. It'll be a spaghetti and meatball soup. I have some pre-made beef meatballs that I'll be adding into that. You can cut those if you like. If you have really big meatballs, you can quarter them. In this case, we're just going to leave them whole. Presentation-wise, they just look so much cuter. So I put a little oil in the pan. I've got some chopped onions. We get those sauteing. Okay. So those get a little translucent. You want to get those cooked. You don't want them to be hard in your soup. Easy thing about this soup is a lot of the stuff is store-bought or pre-made. You can say, like, the meatballs are pre-made, but if you've got a special recipe for meatballs that you love, you're more than welcome to use that. I am using a canned marinara sauce, and we're just going to jazz that up from this stage. So this will be our foundation, but we're going to jazz it up. Ooh, those onions are smelling lovely. So, once you get your onions cooked a little bit, turn it down a little. I'm going to put your garlic in. Let that cook a little. And with these meatballs, I actually want to saute them a little bit. Get a nice little crust on these meatballs. So with that in there, I don't want my garlic to burn. Put a little more oil in there. All these meatballs in there. Okay. Just a little saute on those meatballs. Okay. From here, you're gonna take this marinara here, turn it down. You're gonna add some water in that as well. That's how you get your soup. Add your water in there. Get it all cleaned out. Okay. Get that in there, settled. Break down that marinara there. We're going to throw a bay leaf in there. I'm going to throw a little pinch of salt in there too. And I've got some chicken base. Now, if you're biased because these are beef meatballs, you are more than welcome to use beef base. A couple recipes that I saw did call for the chicken base, and I would imagine that it calls for chicken base because you don't want, a beef base will turn your soup really dark. So that could be the reason why it called for the chicken. Okay, we're going to throw in a little bit. We have a little garden outside, and the basil is growing wild. So we got some fresh basil. We're going to save some for our garnish, but we're also going to chop some up into this. Add a little freshness in there. So I'm just picking off all the stems. The stems will not break down unless you are, what do I use? The burr mix, unless you're really chopping it up. Those stems aren't going to break down. So I'm going to cut it up here and do a quick, what's called a chiffonade. Okay. Ooh, it smells so good. I'm going to throw that in there. probably thinking, well, what about this? How is it spaghetti? There's no noodles. Well, the noodles are coming. Bear with me. I got the noodles. I did pre-cook my noodles. I I shocked them. So my take for doing that is if you put your raw noodles directly into your soup, they will continue to cook. They will just, so once your soup is done, your noodles are al dente, you're eating, but the pot's still sitting on the stove, your noodles are going to continue to cook and continue to expand. Where in this case, I cook the noodles and immediately put them into ice water. Ice water shocks them, it stops the cooking process, and you can add it to your soup. Okay? So, calls for 8 ounces. I have more than 8 ounces cooked. When I eat spaghetti, I like more noodles than anything. I'm the noodle. I want noodles. A little sauce. So that's going to be that. Add a little more in there. Like I said, I like noodles. And then we're going to let this simmer, and I'm going to show you your not garlic bread. That was not garlic bread. Okay. I'm thinking I might put a little more water, but I don't. I will adjust my seasoning on that at the end too. Okay. I'm gonna turn this down, and I'll just let it simmer and do its little thing there, okay? For your not garlic bread, I've got some very sad, flimsy green onions, but that's quite all right because we're actually using the opposite side. Cut those off. And I'm going to cut the whites here till I get to the flimsy, flimsy, flimsy end, okay? And I've got some, just a rustic roll. So it's not even really garlic or French bread, should I say, but this is a rustic roll. It's got nice holes that come through there. I'm going to slice it open. Really, you can take this little bread too and make pizzas with it. Okay. Cut this open here. And I do have my oven for this preset to 450. So we got our bread here. I've got a little mayo. Instead of butter, this calls for mayo. Now, when I was younger, I would go to my mom's house, and my stepdad, he would make spaghetti. I guess that was one dish he knew how to make. But this, he would make garlic bread in a sense. It's not, again, not garlic bread. And oh, it was always so good. It was like my favorite thing when I would go to my mom's house. It was like, is Dennis making his famous bread? So this is it. Take your mayo. You don't want to use you don't need a whole thick layer of it. So I'm just literally taking this spatula and coming down it. Now I remember I said this bread has got these little pockets and holes in it, which is so perfect because all that love is going to get down into those pockets there. So a little more in here. This is a lovely rendition of some toast. I ordered garlic bread from, I can't remember which Italian restaurant I ordered garlic bread from. Your garlic cheese bread, and ooh, I was so excited. But then they put so much garlic on it. I mean, to me, it was such a waste of product that they would put so much garlic on it the way they did. And I'm not talking about like garlic butter. Literally, they took diced garlic, and it was all over the bread. It was in my eyes, it was offensive. It was so much of it. So I like this not garlic bread. Don't Don't get me wrong, I do like garlic bread done the right way. Okay, so it was just literally 2 little rolls that I've cut open, and I've got the layer of mayo on there. Now, you can sprinkle a little salt and pepper on there. There's not a whole lot of seasoning in that, so I'm just going to hit it with just a little bit, and I mean a little bit. Okay? Who doesn't like a little black pepper? Okay? And you take your green onions, and you're just going to sprinkle some on there. Like I said, it's got those little holes and those little pockets for little hiding places. So, green onion. I didn't have that much, so I'm trying to scrape up all that I had. Right. And, excuse me, I've got here, you can use grated now. Back when I was getting this bread here, or when my stepdad was making this for us, he was using the Parmesan shakers. In this case, we're going to get a little fancy, and we've got actually shredded Parmesan cheese, okay? The flavor on that is just lovely. And the reason I'm putting the cheese on top versus the onions on top is I don't want my onions to get I don't want them to get too burnt, in a sense. So the cheese is going to sort of protect it, and you want that layer of flavor directly onto that mayo. You guys are really in for a treat on this little bread. I mean, I'm excited about the spaghetti meatball soup, but this bread here is really, really what I'm excited for. Okay, so I got that ready to go in the oven. I'm going to give my soup a little stir, and then I will be right back with you to show you the finished product. Thank you. Alright guys, you guys ready to try this? Look at the bread, it came out lovely. Like I said, you see there's a little burning on some of the green onions. That's why we put the cheese on top, and this is just fine. The soup smells lovely. Are you ready for the little unveiling? So, on a cold January day, make yourself, let's say, a little spaghetti soup. If you got leftover, you had spaghetti a couple nights ago, trying to figure out what to do with it, just make a little soup. You can add a little sausage in there. There's all kinds of things you can do with leftover spaghetti. I just pulled that bay leaf out of there. Got a nice little bowl here. Give me a couple meatballs in the bowl. Actually, I should really take out the spoon and make it, or the spatula, and make it a little easier. Because you gotta have some noodles in there. Get your little broth in there. Oh, it smells great. Okay, I did save some fresh basil here. It's starting to wilt a little bit, so I think I'm gonna chop it or do a little chiffonade versus putting them whole in there. And I've got a little more Parmesan cheese to garnish with. So a little basil, fresh parm, or I'm sorry, this is not fresh parm. It's shredded parm. Somewhere out there someone's saying, that's not fresh. I'm going to cut my bread on a hard bias. That way it's nice and lean. Oh, look at that. Your not garlic bread on top. And there you go. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you try it. You know what time it is. It is my time to try it. Get a little bit of the broth first. I'm not going to dog this out like I would dog it out if I wasn't on camera. Tasty. This is not garlic bread. Good stuff. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you next time. you.